A little nervous. Normally James handles all
Do you
this.
want me to stay?
Could you? Would that actually, is that weird if I ask that?
No, it's fine.
That way you can just yell at me if I do something stupid. Welcome to Desperate Pace. I'm Mike, and today we have a very special guest here. We have Evan from Arcane Assist.
Hey, how's it going, folks? As Mike said, I'm Evan. You may know me or have met me at some point. If not, I'm on a channel called Arcane Assist. It is a Warmachine and Hordes battle report channel, much like this one.
Yeah. We are super lucky here at Warfaire Weekend. Being able to record a game with Evan has been really awesome. I just went through the LCQ and did not get to play Thagrosh 2 once, even though he was the second list in my pairing. So I really, really want to come out here and play some Thagrosh 2, put him on the table. Did make a few changes. I added some Striders from the previous battle report, but we're up against, for the first time, I got to experience Borka 2. Tell me, why Borka 2?
So the primary reason is because it's a drunken troll riding a polar bear.
That's true.
Which is super cool. The second reason being he's actually a incredibly strong, bricky attrition caster that typically likes to run a big battle group, but has the option of going in Storm of the North and running a lot of powerful infantry that are hard to kill. And we went with the kind of large beast brick at this time. He works well with countercharge and has a lot of different tools that he can bring to the table. And also, he has his friend, the Mountain King.
A terrifying model, for sure. Now, you say he wants to run beast brick, but he's only Fury 5, right? So how do you deal with that?
Whelps are
That's right.
an amazing tool in the troll kit. Often people overlook them, but I think it's basically mandatory with Borka for more than one reason. Fury management is the main reason. You are running multiple war beasts that have the same Fury stat as your caster. So you're going to need some way of managing that. Whelps cut that problem out almost entirely, assuming your opponent isn't being too canny about removing them. The second thing is, because you're a beast brick, you have so few models that can go wide or contest, especially because of your limited control range, that you need Whelps so that you can be like, okay, and I have a throwaway solo that can just go into a zone. And the list I'm playing, you'll see in a moment, only has one unit, which is probably less than I would normally take, but the Mountain King makes up for a lot of that because it just always has Whelp shedding.
That's some really good synergy there, because you don't have to worry about Fury so much when you just constantly are producing Whelps. So let's get into our lists. I brought Thagrosh, the Messiah, with 3 Neraphs, a Seraph, Golab, 2 Free Harriers, Spell Martyr, 2 Blightedness Sorceresses and Hellions, 1 Forsaken, 1 Gobberchef, only 1 Hellmouth, a unit of Strider Scouts with the Officer and Musician attachment, and a unit of Pharaoh Valkyries. Evan, what'd you bring with us today?
All right, so we have Borka, Vengeance of the Rimeshaws, or Borka 2, and he's got his friend the Trollkin Runebearer, a Mountain King, Mulg and Rock, because we're in Power of Dhunia. We've also got an Axer. Our solos are some Troll Whelps, which are free, a Hermit of Henge, Krielstone's Minstone, that is, with the Elder, the regular Elder, not the Northkin one, and a free Dhunian Knot.
Very awesome. Now, you say he likes to brick up in the center. Well, today we have a scenario that's actually very much spread out. It is going to be King of the Hill. And if you look on the screen here, we have, for scenario, we have a blue rectangular zone up in the top, objective on the right corner. We have a circular zone in the middle with a center flag. And then on the bottom, we have a red rectangular zone with an objective on the left. So as you can see, everything is very much spread out. But with this zone, I do like how even when you can still clump up in the middle, and holding that central zone allows you to contest both the rectangle usually and score the flag, score 2 scenario points around if you get the flag and the central zone. For terrain, up at the top, we have a pretty small forest in the blue zone. Going clockwise, we have a water, trench, rubble, another water, wall, and in the middle we have a fairly large forest. All right. Well, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the report. I won the roll and decided to go first. Evan chose sides. Starting with deployment, I figured I wanted to kind of lean in on that line-of-sight blocking terrain. The idea was to have Golab and a Neraph behind the forest, forcing the Mountain King to come up, and then taking him out. Because I believe that the Mountain King should be able to... Maybe I might need more than a Neraph and Golab, but if I could weaken it down a little bit, and then it's a higher chance for Neraph and Golab to take it out. So I kind of lean on the left, space out my beasts, using proxies for the Neraphs and Seraph because the wings are just crazy on there. I then put a Spellmarker out on the edge, and the Sorceress and Hellions evenly balanced. Put the Garbage Chef in the middle, and pass the clock over to Evan.
So my deployment is going to be fairly central with Borka. I'm looking to run him over that little water terrain feature, as well as place him behind the forest so he can be fairly safe. Borka is a caster that's incredibly hard to kill, because not only is he 14-18 base, which is a crazy stat line, he also has the stone, because he's a troll caster, so that's 14-20, and after the first time he gets hit, he goes to 14-22. So I'm not too worried about just running him down the middle, and maybe even in the late game just scoring the flag with him, because he's basically impossible to kill. I'm throwing the Mountain King down to the lower side of the table. I've noticed that Mike has deployed a couple of heavies to that side, and I think the Mountain King can take on multiple heavies at once without much trouble, or at the very least survive multiple rounds against them. And then Mulg and Rock are just going to go right down the middle. Rock's going to try to linger between the two forests so he can go either direction. Mulg's going to be in the middle for his Arcane Vortex, and then the Axer's going to trail on top. We've got Whelps on both the top side of the table and the bottom for contesting purposes, because we don't want to go wide. And then the Dhunia Nut is just kind of hanging out, going to be in that trench, because it seems like the safest spot to be.
Yeah, over to me. I put the Hellmouth in the circle zone, just behind the forest there. I find that Hellmouths are really great, especially with Thagrosh bumping up to arm 20, but what really makes them difficult to remove is when you can remove line of sight to them. A Hellmouth without line of sight is really hard to kill. And by towing him into the zone, I can really successfully contest that zone and maybe even score it if we were able to clear all that out. I put the Striders on the bottom half of the screen, just aiming for the Whelps and the Dhunia Knot over there, because they can't do damage to anything else. Maybe with like a total big combined CRA up to a POW 18 for one shot that does 2 damage. So, starting my turn, the first thing I do, activate the Hellmouth, move one tentacle back a bit, so that way Thagrosh can cast his Dragon's Blood on it without needing to move. So he can cast the Dragon's Blood, then charge, which Thagrosh then does. So activating Thagrosh next, he casts Dragon's Blood, Aggravators up, and he will charge the Mountain King. Now, here I believe we're just going to measure out the charge lane for Thagrosh. He has a 2-inch reach, so it means that if I charge the Mountain King, I can stay pretty much straight. Luckily, I totally planned it out to have that tentacle be just out of the charge lane. Thagrosh, so he doesn't bump into it. So Thagrosh charges his 9 inches and ends up right behind the wall. I was pretty happy with how that placement worked out. If only I had planned it ahead of time. After that, everything basically just runs. So what I do is I do check the threat range on the Mountain King. Now, I'm thinking it's speed 5, 10-inch spray. It's about 15, maybe goes up to 16. Evan promptly corrects me in that, no, it threats 20 inches. So 20 inches is pretty far.
Yeah, Russian assaults make that just far larger than anyone would really expect it to be, especially because it's a spray 10.
Yeah. And all your range attacks, I believe, were sprays.
Mm-hmm.
So the stealth and the shield guards really don't do much against that. So just move the Striders out. The idea is maybe space them out and line them up to get a few CRAs onto the Dhunian Knot after that. So they're moving. Try and keep them spread out in case a spray comes in. We're safe. I think 1 or 2 No, I think I did keep everything out of there. So, it worked out okay. I moved the Feral Valkyries first because they're the slowest models in there. I want to make sure that they get through. They don't have Pathfinder, so we have to kind of squeak around that water there. Spell Martyr just runs, and everything else now is just going to be running as well. Where they go, I realize that with that 20-inch spray threat, I really want to make sure that everything is out of line of sight. Now, the way the forest is shaped makes that a little bit difficult, but I managed to slipstream the Neraph up 2 inches and then run it 14 inches so it can fit snugly behind that forest there. Just out of line of sight of the Mountain King, so it can still be pretty far forward without being in threat of a 20-inch spray threat.
Yeah, and I mean, normally that spray wouldn't be too bad against a heavy, but it's dicey even. It's POW 16 against your Legion heavies.
Yep. They're high defense, but boy, are they low armor. So, next up, Golab and the other Neraph are going to... Oh, sorry, Source with Hellion moves up there. I did want that one centrally placed to hopefully negate some assault sprays between Rock and the Mountain King. Assault sprays were something I was worried about. I learned from playing against Cockatrice that no spray aura is great for assault charges. Mm-hmm. And move a couple heavies up. I end up using a few proxies just because it gets pretty jammed up there. And Harrier is going to go up. Oh, Golab's going up here. Now, Golab, really wanted him out of line of sight, but the idea is I want to take out a heavy next turn. So I really try to queue everything up. He threatens 11 inches, so by putting him in the zone, it really means that he can get over there. Now, without line of sight, it's a little bit tricky, but being right next to Thagrosh, I could slipstream him, angle him out of the forest to make gain line of sight on a heavy, and then go in and take one out, and then sprint out. So kind of the way I'm positioning this, my thought process is I want to hit hard, and then back off, and then hit hard again. Just get the Harriers up there. This Harrier is going to come across with the initial plan to possibly score that zone. And the next Harrier is going to be going right next to Thagrosh in case he gets an errant spray. While Shield Guard doesn't work on sprays, Sac Pawn does. And then the Gabberchef just walks up.
Gabberchef.
And I pass over to Evan.
Alright, so looking at the table this turn, first thing I do, place a whelp 10 inches from each zone on the sides. Great, don't have to worry about that ever again. So that when it comes to needing to contest, we can just do that. We can just do that next turn. However, the center of this table is far less simple. I'm looking down at a lot of heavies that can just kind of come in and go wherever they want and pick a thing, gang up on it, and kill it. But there's no way I can move up in and not get hit by something, because if I'm basically not moving if I do that. So sometimes you do this as Borka too. Bottom of 1 feet. So
Which, by the way, I was like, man, I got this. Everything's lined up. I'm going to really hit hard this turn. Then you're like, by the way, Borka's feat.
So for those of you who don't know, Borka 2's feat says that if you are... So all models in his control get stealth. That includes your opponent's models. Important note there. Also, your models that are immune to cold, if your opponent hits them and they're not immune to cold, they become stationary after the attack is resolved. Not at the end of their activation, not if they kill your model, just after the single hit that they make, they become stationary. Which is really good against Legion heavies that are typically relying on their defense in order to not die, as well as ones that want to sprint away. After that, I decide I just have to push forward as hard as possible. Now, I'm fairly well aware that, like, it's likely that Mike just backs off and doesn't hit anything and is okay with that and then just strikes at a later turn. But that will probably mean, if he wants to back up out of any of my threat ranges, that I get the zone. which is great because I'm going second. So I just get to score for free unless he wants to give me some things to kill. And I probably kill those things also just because I hit like a truck with Rage or Primal if I need it from Rock. And just all my heavies are high cost, expensive, but they do what they cost. Like, Mulg is going to kill anything it gets in melee with. Rock's going to kill anything it gets in melee with. The Mountain King, it needs no further explanation.
I was going to say, that's pretty pillow-fisted, right? The Mountain King, he doesn't do much damage.
Maybe for Colossal, but... and the scariest thing that I want to pressure the most on Mike's side of the table is Golab. Golab can do so much work against trolls for a variety of reasons. Thing one, Entropic Force says I can't heal. So if you do a ton of damage to the Mountain King and take out an aspect, and I plop out a bunch of Whelps, they're useless to me. If you also get Finisher, which is just going to make you able to chew through my armor with extra dice. Thing 3, if it ever gets anywhere near my stone, it can just take it out of the game entirely. Because, fun fact, if you RFP the stone bearer, it doesn't come back. You can't promote a model that is not no longer in play. Mm-hmm. So Golab can just be within 5. You can kill the stone and corpse picker it, and it's just gone.
Yep.
So we're gonna make sure that doesn't happen by just parking the stone far back and making sure that Golab can't get into us in any meaningful way.
Yep. Yeah.
And with that, I do believe it is your turn.
Awesome. So, I do exactly what Evan said. Looking at this, realizing the feat, I'm poised to strike, but that would just mean all my heavies would be dead. So I'm not going to do that. I instead decide to back off. I end up using Thagrosh's feat. Well, first off, I don't back off entirely. I realize that it's only against melee attacks, so I do have some range. Unfortunately, everything is stealth. But the Seraph has eyeless sight, so it ignores stealth, and on the gun, it can knock into flare. So it removes the stealth from any stealth model, and brings the defense down by 2. So by doing that, the Seraph can apparate forward, move forward 7, be within 10 inches of that entire Dhunia knot, and then hopefully get a few shots on there, remove some stealth, and then the Striders can come up, and if for whatever reason they didn't kill it, the Seraph didn't kill it, they can come over because now they're no longer stealth, so the Strider can make some range attacks there. So that's exactly what he does. He moves up 7 inches and spins up a D3 shots, which I get 2. And so I take the first one into the Dhunia knot right next to the Mountain King. And
yeah, that Dhunia knot there is there because I have kind of mismanaged my Fury, even though it's only the first turn, because I want to get as many rushes out as possible, so the Dhunia knot is there for Serenity. It's not going to get to do that. Spoiler alert!
So Seraph gets a shot, knocks it down. It does tough, but I figured the Striders can clean that up. So I take the second shot into the other Dhunia knot into the back, but miss because it's in cover, def a lot. Yeah, I needed a boosted 10, boosted 11.
The trench is useful. It puts me at def 17.
Oh, so I needed a boosted 12. So that didn't happen. But the Striders will move up. They ignore cover. So the thought is I could potentially move one Strider up into range. So he moves 7. He goes into 5 inches of that whelp, and he's able to then take a shot. Now, I can't get CRA because I can't get any of the other models within 5 inches. And the way stealth works, you can't CRA into stealth if the other models can't also see it. So I only can get one Rat 6 shot onto it. It does ignore cover, so I just need 6s to hit, I believe. So we move the rest of them up into there. And go ahead and take the shot and miss. So I then go ahead and repo... Oh, well, sorry. I take the one shot into the Dhunia knot. I hit the knot, kill the knot. And now I take the other one into the whelp, which I missed. So they now repo 3. And I want to contest the zone because I'm going to be backing off. So I need to contest the zone because he's definitely going to be able to kill that objective. So I kind of move all of them over into the zone to try and get as many Def 15 models into there. That side of the table done, I now try and figure out what the heck I'm going to do on the top side of the table. So Aggravator's up. I'm looking here. Everything threats 12 or 10 inches. So if I back off, I can have it so that way hopefully nothing dies, right? Other than the stuff I throw into contest. So I think, what can I throw into contest? My thought is I can throw a Neraph in and a Harrier with Annoyance, bringing it up to Def 15. Now, in order to do that, everything has countercharge. So that was fun.
Yeah, we didn't really mention that. Borka, too, has a spell called Battle Charged. Gives everything in his battle group countercharge.
Which is great. Just fantastic. So the first thing I have to do is use the Hellmouth to engage all the heavies so they can't countercharge. I initially put one, it's hard to see behind that Mountain King. However, the Borka also benefits from countercharge, so he would have been able to kind of charge through that gap and kill the tentacle. So I don't do that, and move in to engage all three heavies. I get the Harrier up there, right in between the Mountain King and I believe that's Mulg hiding behind the Mountain King. And so they both are suffering from Annoyance. I then move one Neraph behind the forest, so that way Rock can't get his Assault Spray. I think it's out of walk and smack range, but still within 14 of Thagrosh. Golab and a Neraph just run back. And I move the Valkyries. Now the Valkyries aren't going to be doing much this game. The shield guards aren't going to help. So, but they are arm 17, def 13. So I decide to kind of run them up to block some charge ranges to Thagrosh himself. Because I think Thagrosh had to sit maybe just barely within one threat range, or maybe I moved him back. But the point is, it was a little tough. Now, here's where I go ahead and move the Neraph up to try and contest everything. Except I decide to go even deeper, so that way I can really contest all three. And I'm in the back arc of something, I believe. So it works out really well that way, except I end up putting it within 6 inches of an Axer now. Now, Evan has told me many times, he's reminded me many times, and yet I still put it within 6 inches of an Axer. I don't know what happened there, but luckily only does like 8 damage.
Yeah, he rolled all right. I think he did 10 because of the stone.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Thagrosh moves a bit to get out of some threat ranges and keeping everything in control. Make sure he's definitely out of 12 inches of that Mountain King, because, oh boy,
good
don't
choice.
Want that. Importantly, I move the Sorceress and Hellion up and do the no shooting aura. So, Windstorm. I then move the Forsaken up, pull off the other two Fury off the Seraph, and move the Gabberchef over and pass it over to Evan.
So, thing first, Fury, Axer Frenzies, because I didn't, think about the Fury management for that, didn't put a whelp near it, just didn't do the math. So he Frenzies into the Neraph, countercharged in conveniently enough, does some damage to it. Now it's a really softened up Neraph, and we can somehow kill that, and then we'll deal with the rest of it. So you can't quite see because of the Mountain King being so huge here, but effectively there is a front line of Rock, then Mulg, then the Mountain King. In front of Rock, you have a tentacle engaging the two of them. You have a Harrier between Mulg and the Mountain King, and then a little bit further down you have another tentacle. And then behind all of those, you have a Neraph, who is also engaging Borka. No, he's on the opposite side of my Stone Bearer,
right.
From Borka.
Right.
So my plan is to kind of clear all of these things out so that the Mountain King and Rock can go do better stuff, which means Mulg's kind of going to be sitting in the back here just killing some useless tentacles, but it also means that he's going to be saved for later. Mulg's utility isn't necessarily as useful in this matchup, but he can do some cute stuff, like if he ever gets to be a target of Scourge or anything. He can Arcane Vortex, that kind of stuff. Or I believe the Forsaken's Blight Bomb is a magic ability.
It's a star action. But I think it might be a magic ability. Yeah, you're right.
Just there's some weird stuff in the matchup that it's occasionally relevant, but not so much. So he's going to end up just hitting some tentacles. But before we can do that, we activate the stone, activate the +1 strength aura, and then charge in with Borka. So that Borka can take care of this Neraph and one of the tentacles so that Mulg can move up a little bit further. Crush that damage roll.
Oh, yeah. I think it was dice +3 or something like that, yeah. I mean, the thing about I should have probably put the Neraph on the other side of the Mountain King away from Borka, because Borka, he hurts.
Yeah. So not quite thinking, I end up just throwing Rage up on Mulg, because I'm like, he's the next one that has to hit some stuff. Probably should have thrown it up on the Mountain King just so that the Mountain King has an easier time of taking out this objective and maybe can do some more damage to this Seraph. Because the Mountain King is going to go down south and contest the square zone, as well as hopefully put some damage into that Seraph and kill the objective for me, because it is bottom of 2 now. So we can start some scoring. Mm-hmm. Mulg, I think I had him in like 2 places in my head when I was doing this plan, because I was like, I'm going to clear the zone, and also Mulg's going to clear out the way for everyone. And you just don't have that many heavies in this list.
Right.
Rock ends up just kind of dirtling about. He ends up trying to clear out the Pharaoh Valkyries from the zone, and he's fairly safe just because of Stumbling Drunk and the ability to place Whelps in whatever order he wants. But he's also just the one you throw forward first. It's okay to lose Rock early in this list, just because your opponent has to put in special precautions, as it were, to deal with Stumbling Drunk, especially because you can place Whelps to direct Rock in a way, because you can choose as the active player, or as the player that only has abilities to go off, which way you want to do them. So you can stumble, then place a Whelp, or you can place a Whelp and then stumble. We're just seeing where we want to go with these things. Dhunia and Not are just going to shuffle around a bit, throw up a Puppet Master of the Mountain King, and then Whelps are going to run into zones so we don't forget, and we are contesting. I think I might actually keep the one in the bottom half of the table back, just because I know the Mountain King's going to be in there. Mountain King charges. We start off with the Assault Spray, and then we quickly remember that he's in the no shooting aura from the Hellion. That's what it's called, right?
Yep, Sorceress and Hellion.
The Hellion. And then we retcon that momentarily.
Yeah.
And then I just punch it to death anyway, so it's fine. It's like, I guess I'll just use my 2 giant troll colossal initials and it'll be fine.
Yep.
Can't kill shot, unfortunately, but we'll throw a couple of attacks into the Seraph. There's a moment here where it's 8s to hit, but I have 2 Fury, so I can either buy an attack and boost, or I can just try to roll 2 8s. I take the greedy route, try to roll 2 8s, get neither of them, doesn't pay off. But we're here now. We have a Mountain King engaging 2 Striders and a Seraph, and he has a little Whelp friend behind him to control that Fury later on.
Now, also, you did knock out, I believe, quite a bit on that Seraph. Mm-hmm. Just with that 1 attack or 2 attacks that hit.
Rock's going to go into these Valkyries. He's actually going to struggle a little bit here. He misses his charge attack. He's not allowed to assault because of the same reason the Mountain King couldn't. And he wails on these 2 Valkyries. Needs to spend at least 3 Fury in order to get the job done. It's like, okay, well, I'm glad I have Fury management on one side of the table here. The Whelp does end up running into the zone. Cool. Hermit moves up, throws up Telemetry, and then the Runebearer is like, alright, I'll spray this Seraph. Get +2 to hit. It'll be great. And then I think he just misses. Or he might hit and just not do spectacular damage, but...
yeah, you definitely hit. I think you rolled Boxcars. Yeah.
We throw out a Frost Hammer, and it does some damage, and we then end our turn. We didn't score the middle zone, which is a little disappointing, but we did get the objective, and I think we're doing all right on positioning, as we are the only one that scored points.
And I immediately noticed that, man, that Hermit, is less than 11.5 inches away from the Hellmouth.
So mistakes were made.
when I heard Hermit, I'm just like, Hellmouth has Consume on its melee attack, so if I get a pull on the Hermit, it snacks it, and not only does it just kill it without having to deal with the, what is it called, Dark Shroud, or the...
Oh, it's, hold on, wait, I have it. Dark Prophecy.
Dark Prophecy, yeah, because when it's off the table, when it's removed from play, the whole big bomb attack that makes it so I can't force, I can't do anything else, doesn't apply. So,
yeah, it's a nice little RFP. I was like, he'll never want to pull the Hermit in. It's like, oh, the big mouth has Consumed.
Yes,
that's a problem.
So I plop a tentacle out there. I am a little behind on clock at this point. I think I'm down by like 10 minutes already. So, not doing so great right now on clock. But I moved the Sorcerer Hellion back a bit to give free charges to the Golab and the Neraph. But I realized that I should probably move it back a little bit more, so that way I can free up some placing. And I also remember, I'm glad I moved it back a little bit more because... There's also a countercharging rock right there. So,
rock wants to eat.
Yes.
And that sorceress is not on the menu, unfortunately.
Yep. So here I am, swinging into the Hermit.
He goes on a magical journey and then dies.
And Sarlacc Pit means no burst of doom. So there we go.
How about the Hermit? The Infernal Invasion's over. It's fine.
Right. And then Thagrosh goes up, Manifest Destiny, pops feet, and sits on 1, I believe. He casts Elusive on himself. On the off chance that something attacks over the wall, he can back off. At Def, that would make him Def 16, effectively. And we do that. So we're rolling dice for some reason.
I think this is the Seraph attacking me.
That's right. And then we realize, oh no, never mind. The mind and body were knocked out on that Seraph, so we kind of retcon that because he would not have been able to. So I don't even bother dealing with the Seraph on that because without mind or body, he's not going to do any damage to the Mountain King. So now I'm looking at the Striders, and only 2 of them are engaged. So I can move the few around and maybe get some CRAs onto the Dhunia knot that remain in the trench. The cool thing is that they ignore cover with Hunter from the UA. So being in the trench isn't super great. So with CRA 3, that brings them up to Rat 9, and they're Def 13.
They're Def 13.
So I need 4s to hit. Manage to hit both. They go up to POW 13s with that, and I'm able to take them out.
Thankfully, no stealth this turn.
Yeah, and so I now spread them out, trying to avoid any sprays because I had to move that Sorcerer's Hellion back. So the Mountain King is definitely able to get some kill shots with that, or one kill shot rather. But oh boy, here we go. So I walk up the Forsaken and cast the Blight Bomb on the 5 Fury maxed out Mountain King. Rolling, 7 dice?
7 dice.
It's POW 8, so it's dice off 11, but I managed to do a good chunk of damage. I was pretty happy with that. The Neraph charges in the objective on the top, and with POW 15s under Manifest Destiny, is able to go through. I think I end up using all my Fury. Yeah, I go up to 3 Fury on that. But I am able to finally take it out. And since it is a enemy model, I am able to sprint often, which is great. So, sprinting back, staying within 14 inches of Thagrosh to make sure I'm in control. And then the Sorcerer Hellion goes and charges the Whelp, which is a mistake because of the noise. There were 2 reasons. One, she is Mat 6, but magic ability 7. So had I stayed back, done the spray, I would not have suffered from annoyance, and I would have had 1 more Mat anyway. But, mistakes were made there. I think I rolled poorly anyway, so I don't think it would have mattered. But Now I'm looking at Rock, and Rock stumbles drunk, so he's going to be moving around. Now he is in the forest, so I'm hoping that he's not going to be moving too far. But before I can do anything else, I have to make sure that I engage all those countercharging models, or rather, make sure that I'm staying out of line of sight. Now, that forest over there is really, really beneficial because Mulg can't see through 3 inches of forest, so he can't countercharge me if he can't see it. So I just have to charge on an angle so I'm out of line of sight of Borka and the Axer, but also able to hit. So I go ahead, I hit on the charge, do some damage, flip it over. He stumbles drunk and stumbles away, directly away from me, but only a little bit. So he's just at about a max range right now of 1 inch, and I thinking what I want to do here. And what I end up doing is I use the animus of the Neraph attractor to pull him 1 inch through the forest base to base. So now if he stumbles drunk again, I can still get another hit off. Which, sure enough, he does. And thankfully, I did that pull because he pulled away a whole inch.
Mm-hmm.
So I go ahead and take another attack. I was debating whether I tractor him in again, but I opt to go for the extra attack because at this point I feel like Golab can do some damage, but luckily Mulg just stumbles back into me. And I believe... Oh yeah, you pop out Whelp. So I'm on the fence here because the issue is that Whelp is sitting right where I want Golab to go. So I'm on the fence. Do I take another attack into Rock, or do I take an attack into the Whelp? If I take an attack in the Rock, not only could I potentially mess up the charge for Golab, but it's already a pretty tough charge as it is. So instead, I end up just taking out the Whelp, freeing up that charge lane, and we're good to go with that. So that's that Neraf's activation. And now Golab... Oh, I'm sorry, before we do that, the...
Valkyrie.
Thank you. The Valkyrie is going to go ahead and run to engage Borka and the Axer, so that way Golab can go in, do his thing without fear of countercharge. So he has some pretty gnarly spikes on those dice rolls.
Rock's having a bad day.
Yep. And with Stumbling Drunk, I was a little worried that he would move out of the way, but the fact that the Neraph is there really helps us that way. It kind of limits what direction he can stumble in. It really helps the dice math to allow me to still make attacks. I go through my initials, and I think I have to buy 1 attack in order to finish off Rock.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. Take out Rock and pay 1 to sprint. Oh, sorry. I bought another attack into the Whelp, and then I paid 1 to sprint. So, Golab sprints back. And now I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm out of the charge ranges for Mulg and Borka. Maybe not Borka, but if Borka wants to charge in, that'd be great. Have a duel between Thagrosh and Borka. I think Borka might win that one, actually.
And then you do your feet moves.
Yes, so I pass clock and would then remind, oh hey, I also have feet moves. So I didn't even think about this, I didn't plan for this. So I end up moving that Neraph back to safety. Or so I thought.
Relative safety.
When I say safety, I mean directly towards the Mountain King, which I think is the opposite of safety. But at this point, I have 2 minutes on my clock, so I'm not thinking entirely straight at this moment. And I pass over to Evan.
So, first things first, the Mountain King eats a Whelp and cools right off. So he just dumps all his fury. I take the fury off of Mulg and the Axer, and well, just Mulg actually, because the Axer had frenzy. And then I Spirit Reeve from Rock for 1. And looking at the table, I'm thinking the bottom zone, I'm never going to be able to score because of how many Striders are there, and I just don't care about Striders because they can't kill anything on my side of the table that's important. So the Mountain King's just going to leave and do more important stuff, and if you want to take your dice off of 11 free strikes, then that's fine by me. So we're going to walk over here, and we're going to attempt to engage the Seraph, the Neraph, the Harrier, and the chef. And then we're just going to try to kill all of those things. Maybe not necessarily with the Mountain King, because Mulg also can come in here. But we're going to kill most of those, is the plan. So, I'm rolling dice here and I don't know why. Oh, there was a model I couldn't see that the Axer killed. Cool. Yep. So the Axer deals with the Pharaoh Valkyrie. Yep. And then Borka is going to come on over and say hello. He's going to be a little bit safer on this side of the forest, just because there's not a crazy angry bird that wants to eat him over here. Borka is then going to rush both Mulg and the Mountain King. Attuned Spirit's a great rule. You get to cast one of your War Beasts' animi for free. So you're like, okay, rush is free, second rush is paid for. Measuring this again, just making sure I can do the thing I want to do. And yeah, we're safer with Borka now. We're next to our good friend the Runebearer, who is just barely in 5 inches before, but now he's solidly there. The stone, I proxy out a couple of times here just to find out where the spot is going to be that I can reach both the Mountain King and where Mulg is going to be without blocking the charge lane, or rather trample lane, that Mulg is going to have through this forest. And it happens to be a little closer to Golab than I'd like, but if Golab at this point in the game is coming after my stone, I'm more than okay with that because I'm almost at parity with heavies, and that's a bad position for Legion to be in general.
Correct. Correct.
So the Mountain King moves. I should do my attacks here in the opposite order than I actually do them because of, reasons, kill shot.
And really quick, I opt not to take my dice off 11 free strikes.
So I boosted the Gobber Chef, and I'm like, that's the guaranteed thing for me to kill. I mean, so is the Seraph on my opposite side, but who's counting? Do my kill shot, and I kill shot through the Neraph, the Hellmouth, and Thagrosh. I hit the Neraph and the Hellmouth, and I only do damage to the Neraph. The main point of this was that I could get -2 defense on the Neraph, which puts it at kind of the most important swing for defense, which is going from 8s to hit to 6s to hit. And then I'm like, oh yeah, arcs are a thing on Colossals. I guess I'll take my left-hand attack on the Seraph, and it just dies.
Yep.
And then we're just buying attacks into the Neraph until that dies, and we are out of Fury. Or actually, we make one swing at the Harrier.
Yes.
And miss. And then we're on to Mulg, who's going to do a trample. Mulg's got a bit of a big ask here, and then I want him to kill both the Harrier and the Hellmouth, and with a trample, he has to do it in 3 attacks. So the awkward part is hitting the Hellmouth and killing it here, because it's either I make 2 attacks and roll a 4 or higher for damage on both of them, or I boost damage on one and roll an 8 now. And the better option is just to boost, because I don't have to roll a second attack roll in there. And then I buy on the Harrier. If I hit the Harrier, it likely just explodes.
And it does.
And it sure does when I roll an 11 for damage, plus 6. And then the Runebearer runs onto the center flag. So I'm scoring at least 2 now, because I've definitely cleared the center. I'm still contesting because of that glorious whelp in the top. And I'm still contesting the bottom. Not that it's relevant, but I am. And I score 2.
All right, over to me. I go ahead and, with 2 minutes left, I try and just get as many control points as I can at this point to try and hold on to something. Maybe if I can keep scoring the top and keep contesting the other zones, I'll be good to then maybe flip back and forth or something like that. I do have the last riders in that bottom zone, so I'm thinking maybe if I am able to remove a heavy from the center, I can now effectively contest the central zone and keep racking up points in the top and hopefully quickly move back and forth, but it's looking a little bleak right now. I do manage to get the Neraph to kill the Whelp, which is great. And I position the Hellion in a way that allows Golab to get a free charge. And Golab takes his free charge, goes into Mulg, gets a swing back at him, but luckily doesn't knock anything out.
Mulg did not hit, unfortunately.
Yes. And so Golab takes more swings, and I run out of clock. So we shake hands, and What are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so I think that you played it very well. I think there was a bit of a mismatch in that it becomes very difficult for you on the feet turn just because of how delicate your pieces are. You want to alpha strike really hard with the list you have, and you're just not allowed to do that against the list I'm playing in a lot of different ways. Like, you're not allowed to shoot me in the ways you want. You have to flare something with a Seraph, and then you get to shoot it with Striders. But anything you do that particular combo to is likely just going to die to the flare shot anyways. And if it doesn't, then the Strider shots probably aren't going to do the damage you need it to.
Right.
I think that the top zone, not killing that Whelp was rough.
Yeah.
But you played it really well with the denial of the assault sprays, contesting the bottom. Like, I was never scoring that bottom zone. I kind of chose to just ignore it after a portion, which if you had another heavy down there, you could just say it kind of exploit that. You might be able to do that anyways, just with a Harrier if you have a spare one around, or if you are like your things can run 14 inches, so you can just decide to redeploy over there if you want. You'll have to move Thagrosh a little bit because his control ranges exist, I guess. But you can do that. You played Golab really well. You never let me attack him other than the retaliatory strike that you didn't have a choice with. And I missed that anyway, so it was all fine. I think I maybe would have deployed the Hellmouth a little further back just because it can deploy a tentacle every turn anyways. I thought it was a little curious that you didn't just deploy the Hellmouth tentacle in range to be Dragon's Blood. Is that the spell?
Yeah. I
and then move forward.
Should have done that.
Fair enough.
That's something I probably should have done, in my head, but I didn't think of that.
And then the Hellmouth's a little safer if it's just tucked behind that wall a bit. And you can just place a tentacle in range of the flag every turn. Although where it did threaten almost the entire zone, which is also a great place to be for it. But it's a little less safe. The forest in the middle actually made things a lot more difficult for me than I thought they would, just because the way I played it, I was often on my side of the forest. Had we been swapped sides, that forest would have been incredible for you, even better than it already was.
Yes.
I very specifically picked my side because of the kind of almost bean shape you get with that one kind of forest, where you can kind of tuck something in there really nice. And then the wall on your side would have been a pain for me because I have the huge base, and huge bases don't work well with walls ever.
That bean shape, the little gap there, I like to call that the Hellmouth nook, right? That's right. That's right where they go.
Exactly. Yeah, the little Hellmouth nook, and it's just as soon as they're in there, it's so hard to get them out.
Yep.
This scenario is, again, it's pretty difficult for Borka because all I have is the Whelps on the flanks, so I kind of have to the turn I spread out with the Mountain King was a little scary because it's he's not in the stone. He's over there by himself, so either he gets the thing he needs to get done or he doesn't, and if he doesn't, it's a problem.
Yeah, and my thoughts really quick, I feel like I did a poor job engaging the Mountain King, and I mean, I only had a Harrier and a Hellmouth Tentacle engaging the Mountain King. If you wanted, you probably could have just taken the free strikes, and nothing would have happened from that. Had I stuck with my initial plan of moving a Harrier over to that rectangular zone with the Striders, and moving the Neraph to engage the Mountain King. Instead, I used the Neraph to engage Rock and Borka and something else. But the Mountain King should have been the thing that I was worried about and had to engage, because Tentacle and Harrier, not going to be enough. And with the Harrier and the Neraph together, Neraph is now Def 15, which you didn't have a whole lot of map fixing in there.
The thing I have is Primal, and I don't want to use that on a Mountain King.
Yes. That's a good point. Looking at that, maybe that would have played out a little differently. Obviously, need to work on clock management. But I'm happy with this list. This is one of my favorite lists. I just need, play it a little bit more. I'm happy with the Striders in there. It obviously wasn't super relevant in this matchup, but to be able to remove solos from 19 inches away is a pretty big deal. And it's something that the list was lacking before, a genuine ranged threat. Still not sure if it's worth a Hellmouth, though, because I love my Hellmouths.
They're just so good.
They're so good. Other than that, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Desperate Pace, and thank you, Evan, so much for coming on. It's fantastic.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
And if for some reason you're listening to this and have not heard of Arcane Assist, please check them out. They're amazing and incredible, and we're lucky to have you on here. So Thanks for watching, and have a good day.
Thank you.